And we see in this story, in the book of Daniel, that the Israelites had been defeated by Babylon and they were captives in a nation that wasn't theirs, in a place that they did not belong to, in a culture that was not theirs. And this Babylonian spirit begins to take over. Notice what the king wanted to do, King Nebuchadnezzar. He says, I want them to know our teachings and eat our foods. I want them to be trained in our ways. Doesn't it sound kind of like culture today? We want you to think in the way we think you want to think. We want you to think. We want you to live in the way we say we're going to live. And we are battling culture, this idol of culture. You have to understand something. An idol is anything that has your devotion over God. That is an idol. Whatever gets your resources, your attention, your heart, your mind, that is an idol over God. If you are trying to say, Pastor, and you make an excuse with anything else before God, and you try to justify that, that is your idol. And so many times, church, what we do is we live a life serving idols and we don't even realize it anymore. We make decisions based on the idol. We act out based on the idol. Our families live a certain way based on the idol. My money goes that way because based on the idol. And before you know it, we don't even realize anymore that, man, that has become my God instead of God becoming the King of Kings and Lords of Lords. And so the Bible says that Daniel and his three friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, were taken in. The Bible says they were good-looking men. They were very smart. And the cultures began to change their name. And there's, in history, you have to understand something. In history, there are theologians that believe that not only did they strip them of their name, they became eunuchs. They stripped them over other things so that they could not reproduce. Because that's what a Babylonian spirit does. It strips you, it dominates you. It tries to rip out your identity to where you are somebody that God never created you to be. And although America looks like Babylonia in some way, I'm here to let you know that God's not done with America yet. God will bless this land, and we will see his goodness, and we will see a rise, and the devil will lose over this nation, and our kids will not suffer. So I say this with an encouragement. And I want to talk about Daniel today because Daniel made a decision. The Bible says that he was determined not to defile the Lord in eating the food. He was determined not to feed on the things that everybody else was feeding on. Daniel was like, basically, hey, you can take my name. You can strip me of organs. You can do all those things. You can castrate me. But one thing I will not defy the Lord. Because in their culture, in that time, for the Jewish people, they couldn't eat certain things. They couldn't participate in certain things. And Daniel said, you can do all these things, but you're not. This is where I draw the line. The Bible, there's another version that says that he purposed in his heart. Church, if you are going to want to experience a new thing in God, and if you want to see God open up the doors, and if you're going to want the favor like these guys had, and the wisdom these guys had, then it requires you to make a determination today that I'm going to make up my mind that I will not bow to anybody but God. I will not defy the Lord. I'm making up my mind today that if everybody else wants to feed on these lies and feed on these things, and if culture wants everyone to feed in this kind of mindset, go ahead. But I've purposed him, I've determined to make sure that I honor God. That God, I'm under the Lord, I'm under God. And so we see in Daniel's life that when he decided, and the Bible says he was determined, that means that he was going to get stubborn about this. Nobody was going to shake him. No, it doesn't matter what you offer him, because you have to understand something. The king's food was very good food. Imagine the best restaurants that you've ever been to for free for your life. You don't got to pay for it. You got to worry about it. You get to eat it all you want. And even though they gave him the best of what they had, he understood that the best came from the Lord. The best came from the Lord. So many times we get confused and we think the best is what the government has to offer me. I'm not here to incite a riot against the government, just to let you know, okay? I don't want people marching out here and going to the courthouses. And what I'm saying is this, is that so many times, if we're not careful, we'll make government or any kind of thing that provides stuff for your life as God for us. And the Babylonian spirit is just that. Look to me for everything. King Nebuchadnezzar wanted them so trained into them. He wanted to instill it so deep that King Nebuchadnezzar was the one that would give them everything. He wanted there to be, I'm your source. I'm your provider. I'm the one he wanted that kind of culture that looked to man to be the source of their life. But Daniel was different. Daniel purposed in his heart. He made a mental note. He was determined, church. If you really want to experience freedom, be determined not to defile yourself unto the Lord. Then you'll find freedom. Because the moment you begin to defile the Lord and make decisions based on everything else, is the moment you find yourself as a captive. Is the moment you lose out on what God has. Is the moment where struggle happens. Have you ever noticed when you were struggling, it was the moment that you were farthest from the Lord? Your worst times that you could think of in your mind happened. Why? When you started making little decisions to keep away from what God had for your life. Bible says it's the little foxes that spoil the vine. It's the little things. It's the little things. But Daniel was committed to the Lord, and there was 3 things that we can learn from this story. Number 1 is this, is that we must seek God's help. We must seek God's help. Daniel was able to be Daniel. We like Daniel because of the lion's den. That's a famous story that everybody loves. That the lion's den, he was able to sleep in there, and they were going to kill him. And no, Daniel's story. Daniel's not Daniel because of the lion's den. Daniel was Daniel because of this moment, when he determined from the very beginning that he would not defile the Lord. And watch how God takes care of him. But he could only do all of these things with God's help and God's help alone. Because without God, any effort that comes from you is going to fail. Without God, you can do everything. You can put as much money towards this. You can put as much strength, as much wisdom that you think you have, but anything without God will fall. It will fall. But God seeks to help people that are committed to Him. When you are committed to God, God will be able to help you. When you determine in your mind that, God, I'm staying committed to you, despite everything else, you will see the hand of God at work. I'm telling you, these next 6 months, or now 5 months, and we're in July, these next couple of months can be the greatest months of your life, but you have to be committed to God. They will be the greatest. I'm telling you. I have no doubt, come hell, come high water, come the mountaintop or the valley, that if you stay committed, the hand of God will work in your life. Daniel realized that his relationship with God wasn't just going to be about food, but his relationship with God touched every area of his life.